Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bet Right Sports Betting Podcast presented by the Six Pack Coverage Media Network. It's your host, Jeff Rowell, here with my co-host, Andrew Tanzi, coming at you to break down everything you need to know for Week 6 in the NFL season. We are coming off kind of an up-and-down week, a lot of injuries. We'll get into it, go over a recap for Week 5, say how everything went, and then we will go game by game, break everything down, give out our favorite props, spreads, sides, totals, everything you need to know to get your bets in for this week. Rue, how did Week 5 treat you?
Oddly enough, it ended up being a pretty decent week. We both hit the under on the Thursday night game. I don't want to really talk about that game or relive that. And then Sunday morning started off with an absolute disaster with the
Oh,
Packers
man.
collapsing. I think I was pretty deep in the hole and I was feeling down before the 1 o'clock sleep, but really dug myself out and ended up having a pretty decent week. Some like the Browns was a big bet for me and they came through. They didn't win, but they covered. And then a couple other big bets came through for me. So yeah, ended up being a pretty good week.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys in the late slate really saved both of
Yeah,
us. I know
yeah,
I had them on the money line at like plus 190, so that was a
yeah.
big hit. Got some anytime touchdowns. So yeah, kind of same as you. Pretty up and down week, but overall made a little profit, even though I felt like I had the wrong side of a lot of injury variance. Debate of the week, man. What are we
Whew.
doing here? 0-3 for you. I go to 3-0. The Bengals cover +3 as the Ravens win. Yet another buzzer beater. They did take care of business, but not for you on the spread. Why can't they put teams away this year? It's just like I felt like they were the better team all game. They just
Well,
couldn't
they
put it
were, and
away.
it's like in a game like that, where it's for all intents and purposes, they're two close teams. I think the
Yeah,
Ravens are the better team, but you had Lamar miss those two touchdown passes on the in back there. It was within 3 plays, misses two
yeah.
absolutely wide open. The first one not as wide open. The second one he
He's
could
the
have
only guy in like a
yeah
20-yard vicinity.
he could have underthrew by 10 yards and the guy still scores. So that was big. And then you had late in the game, John Harbaugh has the 4th and inches on the 3 yard line and kicks the field goal. I didn't really agree with that. I think that's a position where you go for it. So was happy the Ravens won. It was part of my long shot, which ended up hitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks we didn't get the cover, or I didn't get the cover.
Yeah. Speaking of long shots, big win for you going to 2-3 on the year. Lamar over rush yards by a half yard. Mark Andrews anytime touchdown and the Ravens money line. What'd that come out to? It had to be like plus 350, plus 400.
Sorry, hold on. I'm having some headphone issues here. All right, sorry about that. I want to talk about this. Sorry, I had a tab open and it was playing some ad on it. But
All
this
right. After
long
this
shot,
ad break, Rue is back to
yeah.
talk to you about his long shot of the week hitting.
They're driving down the field. Lamar, the Bengals did a great job most of the game containing Lamar. They brought pressure from the outside. They were really containing in the pocket. And the last drive, it was just Lamar was like, "Screw this! I'm doing this myself. I'm getting us in field goal range." There was one play left before they were going to kick this field goal. It was a 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 1. And generously, so he gets the first down by not much. And generously, they gave him 3 yards on this carry to push him 1 yard over. But I'm checking the box scores on different sites and different apps. Some are saying that the over under was 57 and a half. Some was saying 57 and a half, 57. Others were saying 58. So I'm like, did I win? Did I win? So FanDuel graded as a win. But on another app, I had his rush yards over and it graded as a loss. And then I woke up the next morning. It was always good. He ended with 58 rush yards. But yeah, it was a little bit of a dicey spot there for a little bit.
Shout out to you for cashing the big win there. Nice little 3-leg parlay. My long shot of the week didn't go as well. I moved down to 1-2. I had Chris Olave for 100 receiving yards. He got hurt in the third quarter. Was about 54 receiving yards at the time, so probably wouldn't have hit. But I also had his over like 63 and a half, so that was tough beat there. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Favorite bets of the week, Rue.
Oh
Nick
man.
Chubb.
Oh man. First half, never a doubt. Anyone who listened to this podcast and didn't take that bet, I don't know what to tell you.
You made a compelling case. I think you staked your whole legacy on this one
I
particular
really
bet,
did.
and you
I,
couldn't have been more right. I mean, credit to you.
I wouldn't have been here this week if that bet didn't hit. So let's yeah, it's good to be here.
Big win for you. Yeah, so you go to 3-2 on the year on your favorite bets. I go back down to 2-2. I was all over the Dolphins -3. Unfortunately, never really got a fair shake at that one. Teddy Bridgewater gets concussion and an elbow injury on the first drive, so that was just tough break. But what are you going to do? Unfortunately, the Jets weren't going to beat themselves, so didn't come home. Chalk donkey parlay, another loss. The frickin' Packers put us off in a big hole. So we did have Packers, Bucks, Niners. I know we were a bit confused on which one we took. So
yeah, I think I put the wrong one in because I had one that didn't have the Packers and it hit.
Oh, good for you. The prop sheet, we're able to scratch and claw our way to 9-8 on the week. McKenzie voided because of a late scratch. We did have Sutton on Thursday Night Football, and then we were screwed by an injury on Damian Harris. There was also some back and forth discussion on how to best play Breece Hall.
Let me talk about that for a second. So yes, we went back and forth. I wanted receptions. Jeff wanted the yards. Whatever. I didn't. The Bridgewater injury changed everything in that game because I wasn't expecting such a positive game script for the Jets where
he was still going over total yards.
That's fine, but he probably would have gone over receptions too if the game was closer.
Let's take the one that's definitely going to go over instead of the one that probably needs a positive game script to happen.
You could argue they both need it. If he didn't break the one long reception, then
he still would have went over. He went over in like rushing yards alone. All he needed was like 90 total yards. He had like over 100 rushing yards and another 100 receiving yards.
Water under the bridge, my friend.
Some would say loss on the prop sheet, my friend. So 42-38 overall. And that will be our recap for week 5. Oh, let's do our heroes and zeros of the week before we jump into week 6. Who is your hero of the week?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it. We were both pretty heavy on the Cowboys last week, so I'm going with Micah Parsons. This dude
that was my hero.
Really? Yeah, this dude
I assumed you would do Nick Chubb.
No, Chubb's too obvious. Chubb, that's like you expect it from him. That's why I was saying it was such an easy play. I'm not going to overreact to it. That's Nick Chubb. But Micah Parsons just continues to absolutely dominate. Another 2 sacks this week. Clear favorite he separated himself from the pack for defensive player of the year. I know we both bought into him a few weeks ago. So that was definitely a big cash force late in the day. So I'm going to go Micah Parsons.
And battling through injury. I mean, he was
battling through
hamstring injury. He comes out of the tunnel in the second half. The guy can barely walk. I'm like, oh, there's no way he's coming back in. Ends up getting the game clinching sack. I mean, absolute warrior.
Yeah.
My DPOY. No doubt about it. All right, your zero of the week. Actually, I'll go first on that.
We'll probably have the same one for this too. But go ahead.
I don't have a single person. Mine is just injuries in general.
Oh, okay.
I felt like I got screwed by a ton of injuries. Teddy Bridgewater, concussion on the first drive of the game. Tyreek Hill goes down later in that game. Chris Olave, my long shot of the week, gets a concussion. Damian Harris pulls his hamstring in the second quarter. And we get to watch Ramondre Stevenson rip off 161 rush yards. T. Higgins had the over on him Sunday night, plays 15 snaps, catches 0 passes. And then I don't know if this one was reported, but I'm pretty sure Matt LaFleur also sustained a brain injury because the Packers were averaging 5.1 yards per carry with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and all they wanted to do was throw the ball 39 times and chuck it 50 yards down the field to a who's who of bum wide receivers. So that was very unfortunate.
Yeah, so good segue into my zero of the week. I was deciding who to do on the Packers. Yes, you made a compelling case for Matt LaFleur, but I got to go with the Packers defense. The Giants maybe had one NFL wide receiver on their roster.
I would argue 0.
Yeah, maybe even 0. And they put up 27 points. Daniel Jones is playing on a hobbled ankle, and he's still able to run for 30 or 40 yards. They just had no answers for this offense. It was just painful to watch them converting all these third downs, going up and down the field. It's another big play for Saquon. Like, what are you doing, man? This is supposed to be a top 10 defense, and they just got lit up by a practice squad pretty much. Just unbelievable, terrible way to start the day. So Packers defense, anyone that stepped on the field for them is my zero of the week.
And then it gets like a pivotal drive in the game. They're up like maybe 7 points or something late in the third quarter. It's like they need to stop here big time. Saquon goes out of the game, and you're thinking, oh my God, there's literally no one left on the Giants. They're down to Matt Breida and Richie James and all these bums out there. And they still drove the ball 80 yards down the field and scored a touchdown on that drive. It was just like, at that point, it's like, all right, they're clearly just incapable of stopping anything that the Giants are doing right now.
They were biting so hard on play action. Like every linebacker was coming up on play action. So the easy crossing routes were open every time. It was just unbelievable.
Which is amazing because, they still couldn't stop the run.
Yeah, and they still couldn't stop the run.
Selling out to stop the run. Like, what are you biting on? It's not like if you're up there, you're doing anything. It just, oh my God. All right, ready to turn the page to week 6?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's kick it off with a barn burner on Thursday Night Football. The Washington Football Commanders going up to Soldier Field. The Chicago Bears are, it's about a pick 'em depending on where you're looking. might see -1, -1.5. Either way, the over-under has been bet down significantly to 37.5 or 38. There's some conflicting weather reports. A lot of the sites say that it doesn't look too bad. I've heard some people say there could be up to 20-mile-per-hour winds. So keep an eye on that, but pretty low total here. A couple injury notes for the footballs in particular. Jahan Dotson looks like he's probably not going to play. Chase Young still out, and then starting cornerback William Jackson is also out. The Bears did activate N'Keal Harry off of IR. He should be back this week, which should be just a massive bump to this Bears. No, it's not really going to be. What do you have in this game here? Football's Bears, two rough teams around to pick them. Anything standing out for you?
Really, what do you do with this game? I lean the Commanders because what the Bears do best is run the ball, and Washington is good against the run. But if there was any other quarterback, I would be able to bet on the Commanders. But I just can't do it with Wentz. You just cannot trust this guy. I just have no faith in him to not throw a pivotal interception or make a stupid mistake. I have no faith in the coaching staff to get this team ready for a road game on a short week. There are just so many issues with this team that I think they're the play. I think they're the better roster. And like I said, they can take away the strength of the Bears, but I just can't do it. I actually lean taking a shot at the over now that this was been steamed down so much. It's one of those games where it's like what wins out. Like, you have bad offenses, and bad defenses. The Commanders, they put up some points on the Lions, who's a bad defense too. I think the Bears are similar in that class, and the Commanders at times they've shown they can move the ball up and down the field. It's just a matter of Wentz making these dumb mistakes. So a lean to the Commanders, a lean to the over, but I am not going to have a play on either of them in this game.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm probably going the other way. I'm sorry. I was just looking at the box score from last week for the footballs and the Titans. The footballs finished with 385 total yards.
That's what I mean.
Titans,
yeah.
240. Like, you just look at the box score. It's like, how did they lose this game? Like, I can't with this team. For me, I think this would be Bears or pass. I'm looking for a +1.5. I think this is going to be an extremely low scoring game.
I would tease the Commanders too. So you'd tease the Bears. I'd tease the Commanders.
I don't even want to. I'm done with teasers this year.
Oh, okay. I thought you were.
If I was still betting teasers, I would bet teasers. But if I'm betting the Bears, I want to get +1.5 just on the regular spread. Like, I think that an overtime tie is in play here. Like, I think +1.5 matters a little bit in this game. So, like, if you made me choose, I think the footballs are the more talented team, but on the road, on a short week with a coaching staff that hasn't been great this year. And there's just a lot of bad vibes around this locker room. It kind of, we're hearing murmurs that, maybe Wentz is going to get benched soon. The team's not really sold into him. Rivera's kind of lost his luster. So I think that, at least the Bears are playing hard. Like, they've been competitive in pretty much every game this year. So even if they're not winning, like, they were right there against the Vikings last week. They never gave up, even though they were down multiple scores. So I think the footballs have just, big time quit energy coming out. And so the Bears are going to be like my good vibes. I get some good vibes around this team. My good vibes play of the week would be the Chicago Bears. So probably going to bet just so I have some action on Thursday nights. I'm going to have to watch this game and give me something to root for. So I'll probably try and get a piece of the Bears at plus anything.
200 passing yards for Justin Fields last week. Big week.
That's a big week.
Yeah, and then I got to touch on the Justin Fields prop. We had him under 14.5.
Oh my God!
Week. Last play of the game. They were trying to drive down and take the lead or tie the game or whatever, and he throws a pass, gets completed, fumble, game over, but it was his 15th completion. It was pretty brutal.
And the score, they have his stats on the screen as it's showing. So as the play starts, it says he has 14 completions, and we have under 13, and we had under 14.5. So he completes the pass, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's the 14th completion. Fumble, Vikings get the ball, game over. They were delayed by a play, so they hadn't counted the previous completion. So then we come to find out that it was actually his 15th completion, and it was like the craziest cheer ever in our group. And then all of a sudden, it was like the most depressing. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Prop looks for you in this one.
Yeah, as long as I sound like a broken record, but Curtis Samuel over 4.5 receptions. I don't know how we keep getting this line. He's gone over in 4 out of 5 games, 6 receptions again last week on eight targets. So look, as long as he's the one consistent part of the offense that's getting these targets. McLaurin hasn't been consistent, so you keep giving me 4.5. I'm going to take it every time.
Yeah, and even if there is a little bit of wind in this game, like it's not going to impact Samuel at all because,
No.
God forbid he ran more than 3 yards down the field to get a target. Like he's right at the line of scrimmage. So I think he's going to be involved no matter what. Love that play.
Yeah.
Couple ones for me. I took some Cole Kmet unders. I have his under 2.5 receptions around plus 110 and under longest reception at 16.5. Footballs defend the tight end position pretty well, even though their pass defense as a whole has not been good. He's only averaging 2.4 targets per game, so I don't really understand why you're getting plus money on the under. He came on a little bit last week, but I just think with the passing volume in this offense, taking it under the passing game can always be in play. And then one more play. We don't have a line for this yet, but my God, if a book could just post Cole Holcomb tackles plus assists, I cannot wait to bet the over. It was 8.5 last week at plus 100 to the over. I'm looking at that again. Maybe if we get a 9.5, I'll still take the over. This is the middle linebacker for the Footballs. The guy is a beast. If you've never seen a picture of him, he has a sick mullet going on that obviously scares the opposing team and gets them some additional tackles. 15 total tackles last week against a Titans team that runs the ball almost as much as the Bears do. So similar matchup here. He also had 9 against Dallas, 10 against Philly the week before. So just against a run heavy team like this, absolutely love the over for Cole Holcomb if we get a line 8.5 or 9.5.
It's funny you say that because I was pulled up DraftKings today to see if they posted defensive props to look for. Because against
you coming in,
I am, because against this team like the Bears is just going to run the ball.
It's
like perfect,
exactly.
And I rarely bet defensive props. I bet one other this year in a similar situation, and yeah, I just think it is a good spot for it. So I'll be there.
I thought you were going to laugh me off.
No,
if you're in on this, it's a good play, people.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the Andrew Tansey stamp of approval. The man has never lost a defensive player.
Correct. 1-0 in my life.
Now we don't need to say the record. Just say
100% hit rate.
All right, ready to move on?
Yes.
First game of the Sunday slate, we're going to go Bucks and Steelers. Steelers are 8.5-point home dogs a week after getting their butts beaten off by the Buffalo Bills. They'll welcome the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Over under here is 44. Bucks last week hung on an ugly game against the Falcons where they really jumped out to a pretty sizable lead and then just kind of took their foot off the gas, had some red zone inefficiency. So to start off, so I guess injuries first here. Julio Jones questionable for the Bucks. I think Russell Gage is also going to be questionable, and then TJ Watt still going to be out for the Steelers, and it's looking like Pat Freiermuth is also going to be doubtful. What do you have here on this game, and can we officially put to bed the Mike Tomlin underdog narrative? I just want to check. Is that dead or is that still alive?
Yeah, it's kind of a shame because this is like a good spot to target the Steelers. Obviously, they got blown out of the water last
week was a great spot too. I bet that it went really well.
Well, I was well on the Bills last week. But look, you need this defense for the Steelers in order for them to be successful in any way. And I know this Bucks offense hasn't looked good. Only 2 touchdowns, 21 points against the Falcons defense. They're kind of struggling to run the ball and whatever. But the Steelers defense, 3 total sacks since week 1. So without TJ Watt, there's just nothing on this defensive line. They have the 5th lowest pressure rate in the league. And this Bucs defense, it's arguably better than what Pickett just saw in the Bills. And he's going to see a ton more blitzes. Buffalo blitzes at the lowest rate in the league, only 6%. Tampa Bay blitzes at 25%. So we're going to be seeing all these new blitz packages. I just don't see where the points are coming from for the Steelers here. So I just think it could be another long day. I lean the Bucs here. It scares me a little bit what I've seen from the Bucs offense. The fact that the Bills were laying 14, I know it's the home road flip here. I think the Bucs should be probably closer, if not 10 points here. So I'll probably get there with the Bucs. I think they are fine in teasers at this spot. So that's where I am here.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be a pass for me. I just really haven't liked what I've seen out of the Bucs offense. Like you mentioned, like they're just in desperate need of a running game. Leonard Fournette just doesn't really look like the same player as he did last year. Tom Brady threw the ball 52 times last week in a game where they were up 2 scores for almost the entire game. So like I just don't love what I've seen asking them to win by basically double digits here. I think that's a lot, but I don't think I'm at the point where I want to bet the Steelers. They're also in desperate need of a running game. I saw a stat that Najee Harris is the 2nd worst in the NFL in terms of rush yards over expectation. He's actually losing more than a yard per attempt. So every time Najee Harris touches the ball, he's getting at least 1 yard less than what he's expected to get. So he's just been brutal. Pickett's obviously in a tough spot with this offense. So I think for me, my favorite play is going to be the under. So I took some 44.5, some 44 on this one. Like we just mentioned, these offenses have really struggled scoring points. Outside of the one game against the Chiefs, the Bucs team has failed to score 21 points in any game. Meanwhile, the Steelers, obviously last week, their first start with Kenny Pickett put up a whole 3 points. So the Bucs defense has been really good. I think this one should probably be lined under the key number of 43. So I think like 42 and a half makes more sense here.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I think I'll join you. Even if the Bucks, I think, have a pretty good offensive day. I just, like I said, I don't see where the points are coming from for the Steelers. Maybe they can have a couple breaks and they put up 10, 13 points. But yeah, I like that number.
Yeah, and you could look at a Steelers team total if you don't want to fade the Bucks offense. Maybe you take them under 15 and a half, under 15, somewhere like that could also be an option.
Okay.
Prop looks for you in this game. This is one of the few games that we do have some lines posted on. I had a couple that stood out to me.
Yeah, so I was actually looking at Najee rush yards under, but it came in a little bit too low for me, so I got nothing.
I still kind of like the Najee under. So I took under 59 and a half total yards. And I also saw his longest rush at under 12 and a half. I know explosive plays have been another thing that have really bugged him this year. I mean, he's been pretty decent the first few weeks, but last week only 11 carries for 20 yards. And I think Mike Tomlin actually said this week that Jaylen Warren's going to be seeing more playing time moving forward. So I think it would reason that Najee's probably dealing with some sort of injury and maybe they're going to try and reduce his snaps a little bit. So I still like that one. George Pickens over 47 and a half receiving yards, right back to that one, 6 for 102 last week. They talked about it on the show last week. No reason not to go back to it. Chris Godwin over 5.5 receptions. If we get that line again, 7 and 6 catches the last 2 weeks. The Bucs do not have a run game, as we mentioned. And then Tom Brady under half a rush yard. Give it to me all day long. Under is 5-0 this year. Kneel downs are very likely. He has had negative rush yards in 4 out of 5 games.
Yeah, and they're not quarterback sneaking either.
Yeah, he really hasn't been doing that this year for some reason. And even if he does, I mean, you get a quarterback kneel and you're right back there. So, but yeah, it's been kind of weird in some of their short yardage situations. They've handed the ball to Leonard Fournette, who has
and he jump cuts opening to the outside. Yeah.
Oh, I can get 2 yards up the middle on 4th and 1. Now we're taking this out to the left side.
Yeah.
Negative 3 yards. So that's been great. All right, let's move it on to the AFC South. Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts, a rematch of week 2 where the Jags blanked the Colts 24-0. This time the Colts are coming in around 2-point home favorites. The over-under is 42.5. As usual, a bunch of injury notes with the Colts here. Jonathan Taylor is going to be questionable. He did not practice today. Shaquille O'Neal-Leonard, haven't heard any reports on him. My best guess is questionable, but probably trending on the wrong side of questionable, seeing how he's been, kind of handled this year. Kwity Paye, defensive ends, also going to be out with an ankle injury. Jaguars were really, really disappointing for me last week. They outgained the Texans 422 to 248 yards.
Texans.
A real Carson Wentzian performance. 3 trips to the red zone where they went 0 for 2 with 2 turnovers. It's just insane that they lost that game. Meanwhile, the Colts obviously only mustered up like 300 total yards of offense in a game that went deep into overtime on Thursday night, didn't score a touchdown. So this one's tough. I'd probably lean to the Jaguars getting some points here. I'd love it if it hit 3. If it doesn't, probably have to wait on some Jonathan Taylor news and see how it plays out. What do you have on this matchup? Do you have a side that you feel strongly about?
So I took the Colts money line when it opened up. It was closer to a pick 'em then. I think I got it like minus 120. I think the 2.5 is about right. And it's just kind of a spot play for me that this Colts team just got embarrassed by this Jags team. They've had the extra time to prep for it. And we've seen in all 3 Jags losses this season, it's like last week was just a reminder. This is still a young team that's going to have growing pains and going to make mistakes. It's still a young quarterback. And when you force them to play from behind, we're in a close game. Those mistakes are really going to come out. Both of their wins this season, they've been runaway games. They got, they got up early on both the Colts and Chargers and never really had to look back here. So I think the Jags are getting to that point where I'm ready to say they're definitely a better team than the Colts, but it's still early in the season. I can't say, like, last season still existed. Like, it's not like there was a complete roster turnover for the Jags. I know it wasn't Doug Peterson stuff, but have they really closed the gap that much to where we're like, okay, yeah, they're that much better than the Colts, where they're going to shut them out and then come
They
back a
made
few
some
weeks
moves
later
in the offseason.
and beat. No, I know, but I just don't think like it's that big of a, like, they haven't closed the gap that much. Like, if anything, they're on an even playing field. So I'll take the Colts here in a spot where they just got embarrassed by them on the money line at home. So yeah, give me the Colts here. If it did get to like the 3.5, I think that's when you do have to start looking at the Jaguars.
The only problem is, like, how are the Colts really going to move the ball here? Like, the Jaguars defense has been really solid, top 10 in DVOA against both the pass and the run. Like, they're getting a ton of yards on offense. They just can't convert in the red zone. Like, they're just a frustrating team right now. Like, I think they have a good matchup against this Colts offense. Like, I don't see the Colts scoring a ton of points.
And I agree.
Maybe the Colts defense just comes up big and shuts down the Jaguars, and that's how they win. But I don't think it's a great matchup for the Colts.
I agree, but I think it's like I said, you're kind of betting on this. Like, we've seen it in all these games. Lawrence is still going to make mistakes. We saw it against week 1 against Washington. We saw it last week. We saw it against the Eagles. Like, it's going to happen when you put him in these pressure spots. So as much as I despise Matt Ryan, and last week, look, I'm not going to say Matt Ryan looked great. That was all offensive line. Like, you could have put anyone back there and they're not having. I mean, the offensive line was just dreadful. Matt Ryan.
The Jags have a decent pass
rush.
No,
I agree. I'm just saying, like, when Matt Ryan had some time last week, he didn't look terrible. So, like I said, the Colts have had this extra time to prep for this game. I got to imagine Frank Reich's going to come up with some solution to the problem here.
All right. Prop looks for you in this one. We don't have lines yet, but anything you're going to be targeting?
No, nothing I can say for sure right now.
I'm going to be looking at Alec Pierce. He was the guy I got on kind of late on the Thursday night football game. Actually had a really big game. He's quietly been really, really important for this Colts offense. Leads the team in targets per route run, 8 for 81 and 4 for 80 the last 2 weeks. He's kind of their deep shot down the field. So I think you're probably going to be looking at a high 30s, maybe low 40s line. He could also be a decent long shot play or a points bet over. That was something that I did last week. So I think that, Alec Pierce, try and get on him now before he has, 1 or 2 more big games and he starts getting lined in the mid to high 50s.
All right.
Okay, let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals and the New Orleans Saints. Saints are 1.5 to 2 point home underdogs. The over under is around 43. Couple injury notes. T. Higgins, star wide receiver for the Bengals, is questionable, along with their left tackle, Jonah Williams. And then the Saints have their usual collection of suspects on the injury report. Jameis Winston was back at practice today in a limited fashion. So it does sound like this may be the week that we finally see Jameis again. Michael Thomas, of course, I believe he announced last week that he would be good to go this week, and then today he misses practice with a toe injury. So I mean, it's just like you can't count on this guy ever coming back. Chris Olave, rookie wide receiver, he is in concussion protocol. What?
That one sucks.
I know that's a real tough one. Hopefully he can clear it, but with the way concussions are right now in the NFL, I wouldn't count on it. And then Jarvis Landry is also banged up. So a lot of skill position players in flux here. What do you have on this one, Bengals versus Saints?
So I took the Bengals on the money line here. Again, at the open, I think I got them at minus 115 or something. Let's look at the offensive line and defensive line matchup, which is obviously something you want to look at with the Bengals. Saints are dead last in pass rush win rate, 4th lowest pressure rate in the league, and only 10 sacks through 5 games. So we think of the Saints as this vaunted defensive line, but they're really not getting to the quarterback.
Didn't you tell me they were a good defense last week?
Well, I thought they were a good defense, but
last week they were a good defense, and now all of a sudden Geno Smith put him in the grave.
Yeah, exactly. Then they let up 32 points to the Seahawks. I thought it was more that the Seahawks were finally facing a defense that was ranked top 10, but apparently they're not. They're a fraud defense. So you look at these numbers of getting to the quarterback, not good. Offensively for the Bengals, I've been preaching it. I expected a drop off this season, but I still think, when you match up offense to offense, they're better than the Saints. We're talking about even without T. Higgins.
Did you see Taysom Hill last week? Did you see that man run the ball?
We're talking about in order for the Saints to put up numbers here, we need Taysom Hill to rush for over 100 yards, throw a touchdown pass, score 3 touchdowns. Come on, let's be honest. It was a great game. That's not sustainable. It's not. Like
I kind of think it might be.
I'm not going to stand here.
I don't know. I'm kind of in on this Taysom Hill package. I think they need to expand the package, and I think the Saints could be really dangerous.
No. So even no T. Higgins, like Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, they're still like that's a good receiver duo. The Saints, like you said, they're missing all the receivers. If they play, they're banged up. If Michael Thomas will probably get hurt in the first quarter anyway. And then the Saints defense, which yes, I thought they were a good defense, but not like you look at it, 32 points allowed to the Seahawks last week, 28 points to Minnesota, 22 points to Carolina, which looks pretty bad right now. 20 to Tampa Bay, fine. They were, but they were missing every wide receiver in that game, and 26 to Atlanta. So clearly, this is a more vulnerable defense than we expected coming into the season than I expected. Cincinnati defense, on the other hand, they're only allowing 17 points per game. They talked about it on the broadcast on Sunday night. They're absolutely dominating in the second half. They're only allowing 4.2 points allowed in the second half.
They've been carrying the team.
That's what I mean. So they've looked great. And so when you stack these teams up blow for blow here, Cincinnati has the better offense, even if we haven't seen it at the level that we saw it at last year, and probably a better defense than New Orleans right now. So you're giving me basically what's the line at now? I don't want to say it's a pick 'em if it's not anymore, pretty much.
There's a -1.5 on the
Okay, yeah. So
you can get the money line -124. So yeah, basically a pick 'em.
So basically a pick 'em. Even on the road here, I think the Bengals are just the better team, so I'm going to ride with them.
Yeah, I think it's a pass for me. I kind of want to get some clarity on the injury.
I thought I made a compelling case.
No, I mean you did. It's a pretty compelling case, but like I think the Saints can run the ball here. I think they can have some success. Dalton's been fine. They've been moving the ball. I think they can score. I still have concerns about the Bengals offensive line. Now they could be, missing their left tackle. I know the Saints haven't been generating a ton of pressure, but the Bengals just something about this offense that just has not been good this year. So
what if Winston plays? Would you like the Bengals better if Winston plays?
No.
I
would like them better. I think he's better than Dalton. It's an upgrade.
Really? From what we've seen this year?
Nah, I think it'll be better now. I think it'd take a couple weeks off, get the back more healthy. I think he was really brutal once he was trying to play through a broken back. But I thought before that he was okay.
All right.
I would like the Saints more I think for me, it's just monitor the injury report. If we get some big line movement based off the injuries, like if the Saints rule out everybody and all of a sudden this goes to Saints +3.5 or something, I'll take the Saints gladly. Or if Jameis gets ruled in, Thomas is playing, then the Bengals go as underdogs, I'll take the Bengals. So kind of just see where the injuries dictate and see if we get any live movement based off that and play back against it.
All right.
Props for you in this one?
Nope.
Props for you in this one?
Nope.
There's an obvious one you're missing.
Is it Taysom Hill touchdown?
Oh, baby, it's Taysom Hill touchdown.
Oh, dude, you're going to be getting like -120 on it probably now.
I mean, it saved my week last week. I feel like I need to play it out of respect and honor for the man. We'll see where it's priced. I still think you're going to be able to find a +150.
No way.
He was +250 last week.
Yeah, and
the guy is the red zone offense.
Exactly.
Okay, so why was he +250?
I don't know. I think the books finally saw it now after 3 touchdowns.
We'll find out. All right, let's go to a very interesting game here with an interesting spread. The New York Jets against the Green Bay Packers. Packers are 7-point home favorites in Lambeau, over under of 45.5. The Jets and the Packers are both 3-2 coming into this game. No real injury concerns. Christian Watson, rookie wide receiver for the Packers, is questionable. He also stinks, so that probably doesn't matter. This game I think is very interesting. I think the spread is, like, from a numbers perspective, it feels low. Like the Packers were just 8-point favorites on a neutral field in London against the Giants. Now they're going to go home and be 7-point favorites against the Jets. Like from a numbers perspective, it doesn't really make sense. But when you look at the X's and O's, like I like the Jets here. Like how can we trust the Packers as big favorites? They've been more than 7-point favorites 3 times this season. They won in overtime against Bailey Zappi and the Patriots and Brian Hoyer in the first quarter. They shouldn't have covered against the Bears. Justin Fields scores a touchdown and they call it not a touchdown. That was the only reason they covered the spread. And then last week they lose outright to the Giants as a similar spread. And like the Jets have been really good. They're going to run all over this brutal Packers defense. So like the number seems low, but like I want to bet the Jets. So it's like, it's confusing. Where are you at?
I hate this so much because I bet the Jets, and I just feel like I'm selling the Packers at their absolute low, and I'm buying the Jets at their high. But I don't think the spread is right. Like you said, how?
What if we're not then? What if the market's just behind on these two teams and the Packers aren't that good and the Jets are really good?
Yeah,
pretty good.
Maybe it is. And you said it. Like, the Packers just lost to this Giants team. We already talked about all the issues they were having. Took overtime to beat Bailey Zappi in his first NFL action. And I don't think I think they're an average team. I really do. Like their offense, Devontae Adams, like I was in the offseason, I felt like, certain people were underplaying this loss. It's huge. Like you see it on third downs. You see it in the red zone. They just need that guy and they don't have it. And yeah, okay, look, I don't want to like sit here and act like the Jets beat Trubisky and Pickett, like a combination of that, and then beat Skylar Thompson. But I just think the skill pieces, like you said, they have two solid running backs.
Beat the Browns. They beat Jacoby Brissett.
The Packers haven't shown anything that they're going to be able to stop the run. We saw them against the Bears, who could basically hold up a sign telling you we're running on this play, yes. and they still couldn't stop it. So I think the Jets can put up 17 to 20 points here. And what if the Packers are? What's the most points they've scored in a game? They've 27 maybe is the most they've scored in a game. If that,
maybe they've scored that many. They've been 24.
20. Okay, so they scored 27 against New England in overtime, and they scored 27 against the Bears. So it's not like they're having these massive offensive outputs. So I think the Jets
get to 20. You feel really good about it. Yeah,
that's what I mean. And I think they can with these running backs. I could even see them controlling the clock a little bit. And like I said, when they played New England, the Packers play at such a slow pace on offense that's always going to play to these bigger spreads.
I can see the Jets winning the game. I don't even think that's crazy.
So it's not, but like I said, I mean, look, it's not. Zach Wilson has not looked great. Like he hasn't. I mean,
I thought he looked fine last week. He didn't really have to do that much.
That's what I mean. So
he might not have to do that much here either. Oh, Breece Hall, take the ball 25 times and run for 200 yards. Like that sounds pretty good to me.
You're not wrong. So I'm like cautiously optimistic about this bet, or cautiously confident, I should say, because I think I think, like you said, maybe the market's behind, but at the same time, I feel like I'm doing the opposite of what I normally do, and I'm selling low and buying high. So, but 7 or more, I like the Jets.
Yeah, it's a really confusing game, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, it's from the X's and O's standpoint, it just everything just matches up really well. I mean, Daniel Jones just carved this team up with nobody. You put Zach Wilson out there with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and Michael Carter. I mean, it's gonna have a field day.
Yeah.
All right, we're both on the Jets here. We'll see how this one ages. Any prop looks for you in this one? We did just get some lines available that I can pull up on DraftKings here. What do you have any looks?
So I will be going to Breece Hall, rush plus receiving, like we said.
Sure you don't want to go to reception?
Yes. He's taken over as the running back one. Michael Carter's still getting work, but I think it's just been more of a shift every week to Breece Hall.
What do you think his rush yards opened up at?
His rush yards, let me not look. 55 and a half. No, 57 and a half.
That's on the money.
No, exactly. No way.
57 and a half. Exactly.
Okay. So what's his rush plus receiving?
82 and a half.
Come on, DraftKings. 82 and a half.
Yes. And we're talking about a Packers defense that just allowed 125 rush yards to the Giants and 170 to the Patriots the week before.
Okay. So
those look pretty low to me.
Would you prefer rush yards or rush plus receiving for Breece Hall?
I bet both. I mean, if you think that the Packers play with a lead, you probably just take the rush plus receiving yards just to be safe. But I think both are going to cash. I think he's going for 75 rushing yards, 1 or 2 passes. You're over both of them.
Okay. I'm in.
All right. We're in on Breece Hall. We'll be on the prop sheet. Get it now before it moves.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of moving, let's move on. New England Patriots against Cleveland Browns. Browns are bouncing around between 2.5 and 3-point favorites. The over-under here is 43. Injury notes. Denzel Ward's going to be questionable for the Browns, their cornerback. Not really probably a super important piece here against a Patriots team that doesn't really throw the ball much and doesn't really have an elite wide receiver. Ton of injuries on the Patriots side. Running back Damian Harris is going to miss, so Ramondre will take over. Wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, questionable. Jonnu Smith likely going to miss. And then Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, still up in the air. I think we're probably going to see another week of Bailey Zappi. I think Mac Jones probably comes back the following week, but it is possible he comes back. It sounds like he's kind of been close, but that may just be the Patriots kind of playing coy with you. I've heard some pretty smart people on both sides of this game. I've heard some compelling cases on both sides, so I think this one makes for a very interesting handicap. Do you have a strong take on this one? Where you lean and where you betting?
Yeah, kind of like you said, I've been bouncing back and forth, and you said you heard smart people on this, but you haven't heard me on this. I'm the smartest person and I think you you really could make a strong case for either side. I know you were heavy on the Browns, and you're not that smart, so I was kind of leaning the Patriots. Um, but I've actually kind of grown more on the Browns here. It's a little bit of a sell high spot on the Patriots. Everyone loved the Lions over the start of the season, and then the Patriots shut them out last week. But I think you caught the Lions at the right time. Their first road game that wasn't in a dome, and they were Amon-Ra St. Brown was banged up. So
no Swift.
And I still just like this Browns team. So they covered for me last week. They obviously didn't win. They hurt me against the Falcons, but I still think this is they're to me a tier above the Patriots. I think this is a good team. They just can't figure it out on defense. So I don't. That's what's holding me back. Is it just going to be we're running back and forth and one mistake's going to cost us? But I don't know. I think it's a tough spot for Bailey Zappi going on the road here in Cleveland. It's definitely going to be his toughest test yet. So that pulls me back to the Browns. So I'm really all over the place here. So make your case for the Browns. Yeah, make your case.
Yeah, let me try and sell you on the Browns. So right now you can get Browns -2.5. I think that's a good bet. The Browns have had some late game issues. Some, every game kind of seems to come down to the wire. So there is a -140 money line on DraftKings right now. I don't mind that at all. I bet some money line and some -2.5. But I think this Browns D line should be fully healthy now. Clowney and Myles Garrett should be fully good to go. You kind of mentioned Bailey Zappi there. I'm expecting him to start. I think this is kind of the week that maybe his struggles matter a little bit more than they have in the past. Like he only had to throw 21 passes last week, but this is a team, even against the Detroit Lions defense last week, they went 0 for 4 in the red zone and kicked 5 field goals.
Well, why is he going to have to throw more? That's my thing. Why is he going to have to throw more when the Browns have proven to not be able to stop the run? The Chargers were one of the worst running teams in the league going to last week, and Austin Ekeler rushed for 170 yards. I know it was one big run sprinkled in there, but we just saw Ramondre Stevenson have a monster game on the ground. So why is Bailey? Tell me why. If you tell me Bailey Zappi is going to have to throw close to 30 passes in this game, I'd probably feel really good about the Browns. But
okay. I don't think he's going to necessarily have to throw more. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to have a massive game, but I think in these high leverage downs, especially in the red zone, like I'm talking about, 0 for 4 in the red zone last week against the Detroit Lions defense. You kick 5 field goals. I don't think that works against this Browns team because the Browns offense just has a ton of firepower. They're putting up 27 to 30 points pretty much every week. So I think that they just don't have quite enough weapons and enough red zone efficiency with Zappi at quarterback to keep up with the Browns. And like you said, I still think the Browns are a little bit undervalued for me. I think they're a little bit above the Patriots. You're getting them at home, so you get some home field advantage in there. But 2-3 record right now, realistically, they should have beat the Jets. That field goal goes in, they beat the Chargers, and they way outplayed the Falcons too and lost that game. There's a realistic world where the Browns are 5-0. I know every game's come down to the wire, and they've kind of been on the wrong side of variance with some of these coin flip games, but I think the Browns are kind of being undervalued here just based on some of these fluky results. Their field goal kicker, he's just missing kicks that he shouldn't miss. I think that's.
But that stuff matters. That matters.
But I don't think that's necessarily predictive of what's going to happen in the future. I think it was just a kick.
I think it is. I think kickers suck. If you have a bad kicker, we're seeing how important that is. Games have been so many games of. We see it every year. These games come down to field goals. And whether it's a game-winning field goal or an extra point missed in the first quarter, those things matter, especially in these close spread games.
I guess, but I'm just talking about like the overall like big picture. The last 4 weeks, every game has been so 3 of their 4 games were within 3 points. They lost all 3 of them. Then they beat the Steelers by
Exactly.
12.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think that's predictive. Or every time the Browns are in a close game, they're going to lose. I think it's going to start regress back the other way, where they're going to win some of these close
I
games.
agree, but I'm talking more about the kicker. Like when you're having all these 2-point, 3-point games, having a shitty crap.
So maybe Kevin Stefanski goes back to the drawing board and says, "Hey, this kicker sucks. Let's just run the ball and get in the damn end zone. Stop trying to settle for field goals, and that's how they win the game."
We'll see.
You have a kicker, you have Nick Chubb. Let's hand the ball to Nick Chubb. Yeah. Forget the kicker.
Or just have Nick Chubb kick it. Like, who knows?
I don't know if I would go that far. Can I also interest you in an over here? 42.5 to 43 is insanely low. I know the Patriots have played better defense recently, but I mean, both these teams are going to be able to run the ball a ton. The Browns are 4-1 to the over this year with an average of 52 points per game. The weather looks fine. I was honestly expecting this total to open up like 45.5, 46. I don't understand why it's so low.
Well, everyone was saying the Patriots Lions game last week was insanely low, and look how that turned out.
That's true. But at least like in hindsight, you could say like, oh, wow, the Lions with Jared Goff and no receivers or running backs couldn't score points. Like you look at the Browns offense, like what they're scoring 27 to 30 points a week. Why are they not going to be able to do that here? They have all their players.
The Lions were scoring 35 points a week until
okay, but that makes sense in our head. Like, and
Jacoby Brissett scoring 27 points a week does.
But he hands it off to Chubb for 150 rush yards a game. Yeah, I think it makes some sense.
Yeah.
So you like the over?
No.
All right, props for you in this one. Taking too much time on this game. What do you have?
I'll be looking at both running backs over and Nick Chubb. If we're not getting like Derrick Henry 2020 and 2021 lines, I'm talking like 110. You have to take the over. This dude is just a freaking machine. Over 100 yards in 4 out of 5 games. He's averaging like a bazillion yards per carry. It's not a fluke. The guy rips off a 30+ yard run every single week. You cannot stop this guy. Like
if you had to guess what it opens at, what would you guess?
Is it open?
No, it's not. Just
I think I honestly think it's still going to be like in the 90s. Like I'm thinking like high 90s, and
I was going to say like 97.5.
If you give me anything in double digits, I'll take the over.
Or in triple digits.
And give me 4 digits and I'll take it.
Same thing with Ramondre Stevenson, not to the same degree, but he's going to have a massive game this week. 161 yards on 25 carries last week. He's basically the only running back that the Patriots trust. Also went for 66 and 73 yards the 2 weeks prior while splitting with Damian Harris. I mean, my God, I'll jam in all the running back overs in this one.
All right.
And then also Jacoby Myers going to be looking at his props as well. Guy never gets enough love, regardless of who plays quarterbacks. The guy is just an animal, averaging 6.7 catches per game, 87 receiving yards a game, 7 for 111 and 1. He even scored a touchdown, which he's contractually not allowed to do based on his prior years of experience. This was with Bailey Zappi last week. We know he has the connection with Mac Jones. He is criminally undervalued.
I have it written down, but I don't know if I'm going to play it unless I got like a low line on his receptions, just because of kind of what we said. The Patriots aren't going to throw the ball unless they have to. You know, I know he only threw it 21 times last week. He still saw 8 targets, but like it's not something I'm going to force out there. If you tell me a team's throwing 21 passes, I'm not going to take their receiver overs.
What if I told you he goes over every week?
I would tell you it's not Bailey Zappi throwing 20 passes every single week.
All right. I'm just going to take the over and not overthink it. What? Wait, what?
What?
What is happening? Jeff Wilson rush. Sorry, we have to interrupt the programming. Jeff Wilson rush yards just opened. What do you think?
Oh my God. I saw it.
That's like 40 yards too low. What is that? 62.5 is the number we are looking at for Jeff Wilson, a man that was just lined last week in the high 70s, now gets to play the Atlanta Falcons, and it's going to go down by 20 yards when he rushed for 120 last week?
That doesn't even make sense.
What is happening here? All right. Can you tell me if this is on Caesars while I tee up the next game?
It is. It's minus 129 on Caesars.
All right, I'm going to log in quickly right now. Next up on the docket, we're going to go to the Minnesota Vikings against the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are up to 3.5-point home underdogs here. The big story in this game is obviously the Dolphins quarterback situation. Unfortunately, it sounds like Tua Tagovailoa and Teddy Bridgewater are both going to be out in this game, so we're going to have another week of Skylar Thompson at quarterback. That was a very fun experience for everyone who bet the Dolphins last week. So another game with Skylar Thompson. Tyreek Hill sounds like he's probably going to be good to go, along with cornerback Xavier Howard, and then Teron Armstead, left tackle, got banged up as well. So we'll see what happens there. No real injury news for the Vikings, but obviously we've seen massive line movement on this game. This game opened at basically a pick 'em, and it's been one-way action, as you could imagine, ever since. I know we both grabbed some Vikings here when the quarterback news hit. Would you be interested in laying this with the Vikings here at 3.5? Would you be interested in betting on Skylar Thompson? Like, what do you have on this one? Anything at the current numbers?
No. So I'm glad I grabbed the Vikings so I had them plus 100 on the money line on Sunday. It was weird because most of the books opened it at -2.5 or -3. And there was one book out there that seemingly didn't adjust for the possibility that it was going to be Skylar Thompson. So he
Good
grabbed
call by you.
But so over a field goal, honestly, like if I was betting this game right now, I would probably lean the Dolphins. I can just see the Vikings finding a way to screw this up. And I can see Raheem Mostert just having a monster day on the ground and Kirk Cousins making stupid mistakes, the Vikings shooting himself. Like, this is the MO of this Vikings team. It really is. We saw it last week against the Bears. They just make everything more difficult than it needs to be. You can't look at any Vikings matchup and take it for granted. So even with the number I'm sitting at, I don't feel great. Like, part of me wants to like buy a little bit back on the Dolphins because I went pretty heavy on it. I'm not going to do it because it's not my MO, but yeah, if I was new to this game, I'd be taking the Dolphins. I really would.
Yeah, it's one of those.
And you still have and you still have like the Vikings were in London 2 weeks ago. They came back and now they're traveling to Miami. So it's not the best spot.
I guess.
Yeah.
Does the Miami Heat still matter at this point?
It might.
I'll have to check guy.
I'll have to check the humidity report on that.
All right, get back to us on that. Yeah, this one's kind of weird because it's like you think about the game. It's like, how is Skylar Thompson going to be able to move the ball and put up enough points to keep up with this Vikings offense? You just saw him struggle mightily against the Jets last week. What, they muster up 17 points maybe. So like, just seems like the Vikings should be so good here. But then you just think about it, like they just find a way to let whoever they're playing just. I mean, they were up multiple scores on the Bears at halftime last week, and the Bears just come back and they can win the game at the end. So I think, kind of like what you said, it's hard to make a case for why the Dolphins should only be 3.5 here, but the Vikings just have this way of allowing just any team to make it a close game against them. So at the current numbers, it would probably be Dolphins or pass, but probably a pass.
Yeah, it makes me feel pretty good that Miami defense just allowed a 40 burger to the Jets. I know some of that was like
dead last in DVOA against the pass. That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, and Xavier Howard's coming back, but I don't know, he's not going to lock down Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
So on paper, the Vikings should be able to have a pretty big day on offense, but we know that's not always the case.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway for me would be if you miss the Vikings early, I don't think it's great to jump in now. Like especially if this one keeps steaming -3.5, -4, -4.5. Yeah, I don't think you can step in here and say, oh, Teddy and Tua are both. Let me with the Vikings. Like, you kind of missed the move. I don't think there's any value left at the current numbers.
Yeah. For situations like this, I'll like, don't try to get ahead of the news because we knew on Sunday, like, Bridgewater went down. The way the NFL's cracking down on these concussions, they were sitting at 2.5 for a decent amount of time on most books. So I think, I bought into this with the notion that if Bridgewater plays, if that happened, I would have bought back a little bit on the Dolphins.
You're in a great position.
So yeah, I think you buy into it, and if you got to eat a little bit of juice on it, it's going to happen. It's not the end of the world. So I think try to get ahead of this type of stuff.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Prop looks for you in this one. No lines available. Anything you'll be targeting?
Yeah, I think I'll be going to Raheem Mostert. I'm curious to see how the books react to last week. It's obviously just one week on the season, but Chase Edmonds is pretty much phased out of this offense, and it seems like they're going to Raheem Mostert's the guy.
They signed him in the offseason.
So I really have no idea of where his line's going to open up. If it's somewhere in like he rushed for
58.5.
58.5, I'd probably take the over, especially since he's one of those running backs historically that breaks off these big runs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only concern would be game script, if they do go down by big and they're forced to pass. But like, how much are they really going to want to pass 40 times
That's what I
Skylar
mean.
Thompson?
Yeah. Even if they're down, they still might try and be running the ball to get back in the game.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. In the 50s, I feel comfortable. 60s, I'd probably have to think about it more.
Yeah.
All right, moving along to our look ahead line of the week that we gave out last week. The Baltimore Ravens against the New York Football Giants. Giants are 5 to 5.5 point home dogs here. The over under is 44.5. So we grabbed the Ravens last week at -5.5. That number is basically still available now. You can still get it a little bit better of a number. Couple injury notes. Rashad Bateman, Ravens wide receiver, is questionable. Safety Marcus Williams went on IR with a dislocated wrist. And then the Giants' typical wide receiver injury report: Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, Wan'Dale Robinson, all questionable and probably doubtful as usual. How are you feeling about our Ravens position on this one? What would you do if you didn't have that in the account now? Do you still like it, or would you be thinking about this game a different way?
Yeah, so when we gave it out last week, I wasn't factoring in the Giants beating the Packers. I think if things went to plan, it would be like a 7-point spread. We'd be sitting good, but that's going to happen sometimes when we get these look ahead lines. But honestly, I still feel good about it, and I was a little, Monday, Tuesday, even though I was like, how do I feel about this bet? But I dug more into it. And I really like the Ravens here, and I gained some confidence in their defense last week. Held the Bengals to 4.9 yards per play, 4 for 10 on third down. So it was nice to see them actually getting off the field, and they didn't allow any big plays, which was obviously a plus as well. The offense was pretty pedestrian, but the Bengals, like I said, they've proven to be a pretty solid defense. And if Lamar hits one of those wide open touchdown throws, we're talking about a 26-point output for a pretty good defense, and maybe we feel a little bit better. And I don't think this Giants defense, from what the Giants have played this year, to me, this is a class above anything else. And I don't think this defense has really been tested like it's going to be tested against this Ravens team. We're talking about a schedule that features 4 offenses that are bottom half of the league in DVOA. Prior to last week, the best quarterback they faced was Ryan Tannehill. And I think the Packers really just shot themselves in the foot more than it was this Giants defense stepping up like we talked about. They threw the ball 39 times when if they just handed the ball off every single time, they would have been fine. So credit for them to stepping up, making the 2 big deflections at the end of the game. But I just look at this Giants team and I feel like this 1-4 or 4-1 could easily be 1-4. And I know that's easy to say, but you look at the numbers, they're 18th in overall DVOA, 19th in points per game, 23rd in yards per game, and 26th on third down. So they've really just been skating by. And like I said, they're just kind of jumping up a weight class here. So I think the Ravens can keep them at arm's length here and cover a 5.5-point spread. I think this is a little bit of a sell high spot here on the Giants format.
I think the problem for me with this game, so I still think the number's valuable. I still think the Ravens under 6 is a good bet. I think this should be 6.5, even Ravens -7, I think is the right number. The problem for me is 2 things. Number one, I cannot seem to figure out the Giants this year. I bet against them last week. I bet against them when they played the Bears. I bet on them when they played the Cowboys, and I bet against them when they played the Panthers. So I am 0-4 betting the New York Giants this year. For whatever reason, I don't have a good read on this team. The other problem is the Ravens. This is what I talked about last week with the Bengals game. The Ravens just seem to have this thing where winning by margin just seems like a really, really difficult task. Like they've had a lead in every game they've played, and it just seems like pretty much every game is coming down to the final few minutes, the final possessions. 2-point win over the Bengals that came down to a last-second field goal. 3-point game to the Bills that came down to a last-second field goal. They did end up beating the Patriots by 11, but that was a 3-point game with 2.5 minutes left in the game. Like the Dolphins game, a 4-point game. So that's the problem, is the Ravens seem to have this thing where they're getting leads and they're just not really holding them. They're letting teams come back. So I could see a scenario where the Ravens are up maybe 10 to 13 points. The Giants score a late touchdown and we lose the cover. So those would be my concerns, but I do think the numbers here is still valuable under 6.
And I think the one thing I just love with this Ravens, and this is more of like a big picture type of thing, might not be, a 5.5-point spread might not have that big of an impact. But whenever this team hits the 40-yard line, they're basically guaranteed points with Justin Tucker. Honestly, they make it to the 40-yard line as long as they don't turn the ball over or turn over on downs, they're getting 3 points. And I think that like betting on a team like that where you have such a reliable kicker to me is huge.
Yeah, I'd like that more in like close games with small
that's what
spreads,
I mean.
but
Like
yes,
maybe a 5.5 point spread. It doesn't, any points obviously is going to matter. They're going to add up and cover a spread. But yeah, maybe it's more conducive to these smaller spreads. But
could get you
just
from a 6-point lead to a 9-point lead, and it gets us to cover.
Exactly.
All right, prop looks for you in this one. We going back to Lamar rush yards.
Yeah, if it's not, maybe that he only hit by 1 yard last week. We'll still get, like I said, the Bengals Lamar didn't do anything on the ground for 3/4 of that game, and he still went over. So yeah, if we're still getting this line in the 50s, we're just going to keep going back to it. And then if he doesn't hit,
keep taking it until it doesn't hit.
Even when it doesn't hit, then you just go back to it the next week because they're probably going to bump it down a few yards. He's gonna average 60+ yards on the ground for the season.
Yeah.
So I think you just keep getting ahead of it.
I'm also going to look at, we'll see where Saquon's line come out at. His are going to be pretty high. So we'll have to see if that's a play or not. But Daniel Jones rush yards, I'm probably going to get it in the low 30s. I mean, this guy, even with a sprained ankle, I was all over his unders last week, figured no way he can run for 35 yards on a sprained ankle. He just jammed it down my throat. 37, 68, and 79 rush yards over the last 3 games. The best play on this Giants offense outside of Saquon running is Daniel Jones taking off and leaving the pocket. So both quarterbacks over rush yards.
Yeah. And I just if you're the Ravens, they have no receivers. I know your corners haven't been great, but you have Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters that should, I would hope, be able to cover these Giants.
If they can't cover these receivers, just retire.
So let them cover them and just keep a linebacker and to spy Daniel Jones, and that's half their offense.
It sounds so easy, but for some reason, every time the Giants play someone, no one can execute this game plan. Packers couldn't figure it out last week.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along here. San Francisco 49ers against the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are 5.5-point home dogs. They remain the only undefeated team against the spread in the NFL. Over under here is 44.5. Bunch of injury notes on both sides. Kyle Pitts and Drake London, the 2 main pass catching options for the Falcons, both going to be questionable. It sounds like Pitts is probably trending towards in. And then the 49ers, just a brutal injury report coming out of last week. Obviously, left tackle Trent Williams still going to be out. They lost cornerback Emmanuel Mosley to a torn ACL. Safety Jimmy Ward broke his hand. Defensive end Nick Bosa is probably still going to be out with a groin injury, but we're not 100% sure. Eric Armstead's going to be out, and their kicker Robbie Gould has a knee injury. So I think this is one where I was looking at the Niners here under 6. I think it's a good spot. They're on the East Coast for the 2nd week in a row. I know they've had a ton of success in these East Coast back-to-back travel spots. They kind of stay over on the East Coast and don't have that West-East travel. So this has been a historically good spot for the Niners under Kyle Shanahan. But with the injuries just piling up here, I couldn't make a play here. And the Falcons do seem to be at that team that's really, always fighting till the end. The back door is always open with this team. We saw it last week with the Bucs. So this one's a pass for me. What do you have on the side or total?
So I took the Niners here, and
okay, yes, sell me on it.
Yes, the injuries are a little bit concerning. 2 of those
that's like half their defense.
2 of those main injuries are in the secondary. I'm not worried about the secondary. But Marcus Mariota,
Frank London's awesome. He could toast these guys.
Marcus Mariota has thrown for 200 yards in 2 games this season. He's had 21 completions in the last 2 games. They were shut out for 3 quarters last week, and it was really just the Bucs' struggles on offense that kept them in that game.
And they still covered.
Yeah, they covered. That's fine. They covered. They put up 15 points in the 4th quarter. They were shut out for 3 quarters. That happens. I'm not worried about it. The matchup just sets up well for the 49ers. The Falcons are 27th in DVOA against the rush, 28th in line yards, which, we're sitting here with a Jeff Wilson at 62.5 rush yards. I don't know how that doesn't hit at halftime.
What is that line? I still can't get over it.
It's just a dream matchup. We know the 49ers offense is based around the run game. And on the flip side, the Falcons offense, their success is when they're running the ball. And yes, okay, down the 2 defensive line. Those injuries are a little bit concerning, but the defense as a whole, scheme-wise, 2nd in adjusted line yards, 1st in DVOA against the rush. 2 big injuries. I'm not expecting them to fall off to, outside the top 10 in rush defense. So I just think this matchup sets up really well for them. And we saw, we saw Cleveland. I thought that was the perfect matchup against the Falcons. Well, here we have another team that can run the ball, except they actually have a defense on the other side. So I just think it's a similar type of game where the 49ers are going to be able to have their way on offense. And I don't think the Falcons are going to be able to put up a ton of points here.
Okay, you make some good points. Maybe if Drake London and Kyle Pitts both go, maybe we'll see the spread come down a little bit. Maybe some people buy into the Falcons being 5-0 against the spread, want to play on them. So maybe if we get the line dip down a little bit, I'll join you on the Niners. But I think for now, it's going to be a pass for maybe. You do make some good points.
Thank you.
Props for you in this one, other than Jeff Wilson over 62.5 rush yards.
But that is just I don't know. I feel like by the time this podcast is out, it's going to be like 70 or something. Honestly, I don't think that line's going to last.
It can't. It needs to be 80. Like I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I'm also going to be looking at Kyle Pitts unders. The Niners have a top 5 pass defense and are one of the best in the league against the tight end. Last game Pitts played, he only ran a route on 12 of Marcus Mariota's 20 dropbacks. So for some reason, they think he is a best used as a blocker instead of a pass catcher, apparently. So
yeah, that's why you draft tight ends in the first round, right?
Not just the first round, like
yeah,
fifth overall.
Top 10. Yeah,
blocking tight end, 5th overall. That's the optimal strategy, I believe. All right, let's go to an interesting game here in the 4 o'clock slate. The Carolina Panthers against the LA Rams. Rams are 10.5 to 11-point home favorites. The over-under has dropped down to 40.5. This will be the first game with Matt Rule out as head coach of the Carolina Panthers, with the potential fire sale going on. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, a bunch of players being involved in potential trade rumors. And then the quarterback situation also a bit messy. Baker Mayfield has an ankle injury. He's doubtful. PJ Walker's probably going to start this game, but no official word has been confirmed yet. But on the other side, the Rams are not a mess in the same way, but this offense has just been brutal. 323 yards of total offense last week, and that included a 75-yard screen pass that Cooper Kupp took to the house. 198 yards of total offense from players not named Cooper Kupp. They can't run the ball. The offensive line is giving up a ton of sacks. Stafford is still the most turnover-prone quarterback in the league. They have one play: throw Cooper Kupp the ball, and that's all this team can do. Now, I don't know if this is the team that you necessarily want to bet on to take down the Rams like we had last week with the Cowboys. But what do you have here? Is this a Panthers or pass situation, or is the Panthers situation even worse where you could lay this many points with the Rams?
No, I'm really leaning the Panthers here. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. It's just who the heck are the Rams to be favored by double digits against anyone right now? And as far as I'm concerned, the Panthers took out the trash this week with firing Matt Rule, getting Baker Mayfield out. And, PJ Walker, look, he stinks. PJ Walker stinks, but is he really a downgrade from what we're seeing from Baker? And
yes.
at least he can run the ball. Is he, though? How much worse can you be than Baker?
Not much, but we talked about it last somewhat week. Of a downgrade.
How, though? Because we talked about it last week how Baker was the only quarterback in the league with a negative EPA. Like,
he could also have a negative EPA.
He could, but I mean, I gotta imagine he's somewhat competent. I don't know. And Stafford's been sacked the most times in the league. He's getting pressured on 25% of his dropbacks. The offense couldn't run the ball if you strap the whole defense to the ground and they had to freaking claw their way out. I don't even know. God, dude, if I win bets on Cam Akers unders, and I still can't stand watching this guy play football. And really, my hesitation is Carolina's D-line is not getting to the quarterback. They only have 8 sacks on the season. They're 20th in pressure rate. And the 2 weak defensive lines the Rams have faced this season, they're their 2 best offensive outputs. Granted, they only won the games by 4 and 8 points. So, I mean, that's, as much as it's a hesitation for me, I still don't think this Rams team should be laying 10.5 points. So I think by Sunday, I'll have a play on the Panthers here.
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of the same points you just made. It's definitely got to be Panthers or pass. There's obviously some concerns with the Panthers outside of what you just said. I mean, that they have potential to trade some of these guys. You never know what the kind of like the behind the scenes in the locker rooms like. Are these guys ready to just give up on the season already, knowing that they're going to be trading pieces and already building towards next year? So who knows how it plays out, but I think it's got to be Panthers or pass. I think if we got an 11.5, that would be my buy point on the Panthers. So we'll see if we get there. I do like the
what's the difference between 10 and 11, 10.5 and 11?
Well,
It's
if
not
the game
really.
lands 11, you win on the
Yeah,
one
but
bet
like it's
and
not like
lose.
it's like a key. It's to me, there's not much of a difference if you like them at 10.5, or if you like them at
24-13,
okay.
31-20,
All
30
right,
to
well, yeah, okay,
19.
yeah, you can come up with scores for any number. I'm just saying, like they're double digit.
Giving you some options.
Okay.
17-6. I could see a 17-6 game here.
All right.
I mean, like if the buy point at some number. I also like the under here. I think anything 41 or higher, I think is a pretty good play. I think the two defenses are the best two units in the game. Both these teams are a combined 7-3 to the under this season. And just look at the Rams' last three games: 22-10, 24-9, and 20-12. So I think the under is a pretty strong play in the 40s.
All right, don't hate it.
Prop looks for you in this one. Cam Akers under.
Yeah, my only worry is like they're not giving Darrell Henderson, for whatever reason, he's barely getting
trying to figure out this running back situation will make your brain hurt. I mean, there's just no way around it.
So as much as I think like the Panthers can cover the 10.5 point spread, it's still a 10.5 point spread. So you're looking at the Rams and possibly a positive game script where they could just force feed Cam Akers 25 carries for 47 yards and he goes over. So that's my only hesitation with just auto playing the under this week.
Yeah, it opened pretty low too. I think it's 42.5.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So even with him who's going to average the 1.8 yards per carry, it could still get there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. I do like Allen Robinson unders. I don't think we have lines yet, but I think
what is going on? He is literally just getting cardio in every week.
Yeah. I mean, last week he wasn't even getting in that much cardio. He played a season low 83% snap. So if he doesn't pick it up soon, he's not even going to get his cardio. And he's just going to be now his butt on the bench.
Yeah. So now his stamina is suffering too. Man, it doesn't get any worse.
Yeah. Failed to top 25 receiving yards in 4 out of 5 games. So definitely an underplay. All right. Ready to move on?
Hop on the bike on the sidelines, Alan. Get your cardio in.
There you go. You can look at the cardio on the bench.
There you go.
On the bike. All right, let's go to the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks NFC West divisional battle. Not sure what time this game's going to be played. It may be moved up to I think I saw like a 2:30 Eastern start, so that'll be interesting. Have that in the middle of the afternoon. Over under here is at 51. James Conner and Darrell Williams are both probably not going to play for the Cardinals. They signed free agents Corey Clement and Tyson Williams, so that indicates they're probably going to go into the game with at least one of those two, and then Eno Benjamin. And then on the Seahawks side, another running back injury, Rashad Penny, unfortunately going to be out for the year, so it will be Ken Walker time in Seattle. I think the spread is crazy. I love the Seahawks here. What do you have in this one? Are you joining me on the Geno Smith bandwagon, or are you going to find more reasons why he's still not good at football?
Yeah, I'm on the fence here because I feel similar to the Lions, this offensive output, it can't keep at the same pace. Like
I disagree.
Let me talk. And when it dips, when this offensive output dips even a little bit,
what if it doesn't?
This defense is my God. This defense is bad.
Bad.
Holy crap! I just don't know if this is the spot at home against a bad Cardinals team that I want to make a play against the Seahawks. So I want to be there to bet against the Seahawks. I just don't know if this is the time.
We're talking about betting on the Seahawks. What are you doing? We're not betting against. We're betting on the Seahawks.
I'm looking for a spot to bet against.
So you're still a Geno hater. What does he have to do to show?
I don't hate Geno. I hate this defense. Hater. I hate the defense. And as bad as I think this Cardinals team is and their defense is, they've really had respectable outings since the week 1 blow up versus the Chiefs. If you filter out that blow up against the Chiefs, which is a top 3 offense, they're 13th in DVOA over the past 4 weeks. They held the Eagles to 20 points last week, which is pretty impressive. But the secondary, which is the weakest part of this defense, I don't know if they're going to be able to cover both Lockett and Metcalf while containing Kenneth Walker on the ground. So I think I'm going to pass this game.
I mean, when this hit Seahawks +3, I just thought it was absolutely insane. There is no way in heck the Cardinals should be laying 3.
Dude, I just think okay, we all love Geno Smith. There's a reason.
Do we? Because I think you hate Geno Smith, but go on.
Because I just think it's ridiculous. We overreact to stuff. Has he been playing great? Yes. As the offense, we're 5 games into the season and we're ready to crown Geno Smith the MVP of the league. Let's calm down and look at the body of work this guy had over his entire career and why he was a backup quarterback. I think we just need to pump the brakes and see that they're not going to be scoring 30+ points per game And like I said, dude, if they're not scoring 30 plus points a game, this defense isn't stopping anyone. They're not stopping a JV grade school team. That's how bad they are. So you're relying
Would
on
you say they could stop a nosebleed?
a nosebleed. No, they would make the nosebleed even more.
I know you're a big guy on the nosebleeds.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What can I interest you in this? Can I interest you in the over at 50.5 on DraftKings right now?
Yeah, I could probably get behind that.
I haven't probably. What the?
Well, I know. From a personal standpoint, I have not been good at betting totals this year. I've been very good on the spreads.
Okay, I'm good at totals. Follow me. We're betting the over 50.5. This is the 26th.
He's not that great at totals. He's not that great at totals.
I've been good at totals this year. Last year I wasn't good at totals. This year I've been good. The 26th.
You're getting pretty defensive right now. You're playing more defense than the Seahawks do right now.
Exactly, which is why we're going to bet the over. I can't even give out the stats. The point is, both these defenses are really bad. The offenses are really good. This should be like 53.5.
You tell
them. Props for you in this one. I think they are going to be bountiful in this game.
Yeah, so I think you can look at both Seahawks receivers, but I'm going to be also looking at Ken Walker rush yards. It's a pure volume play for me with no Rashad Penny. He's easily going to see 15 carries, and I believe in the talent. I think he's a great running back. The Cardinals, they've been pretty decent against the rush, but it really doesn't scare me away. Like I said, if we're getting 15 to 20 carries, I'll be looking. I'm going to guess somewhere in the low 60s. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Okay.
I like it there. All right, with you there. I think Lockett probably is a better matchup than DK Metcalf, something that I'll touch on a little bit more. So I'm going to be looking at Lockett over receiving yards. Definitely don't hate if you want to go with DK. That's fine too. And then Noah Fant or Willie Disley. We'll have to see what the Will Disley. Sorry, what the anytime
Willie Disley.
Willie Disley. Anytime touchdown odds are, but the Cardinals are brutal at defending opposing tight ends. I was all over Dallas Goedert last week. The line got steamed up a ton, so it didn't make the prop sheet, but he had a massive game. So I think looking at both of these guys to score a touchdown, you should get pretty good odds. And then on the Cardinals side, old reliable Zach Ertz over 4.5 receptions. This guy has 6+ catches in 4 straight games, 10+ targets in 3 out of the 4. The Cardinals have absolutely no run game with Eno Benjamin as their lead back. And then let's look at Hollywood Brown, over receptions, over receiving yards. Maybe we got like a 5.5 and a number in the low 70s. Targets over the last 4 weeks for Hollywood Brown: 11, 17, 11, and 10. Yards: 68, 140, 88, and 78. The Cardinals offense is going to smash, and so is the Seahawks. So take all the overs you can get your hands on.
So you think
the over is like my favorite bet of the week? It's going.
All right,
over.
make it your favorite bet of the week then.
It was going to be until I saw Jeff Wilson's rush yards. And
okay.
I kind of want to make that my favorite bet of the week.
Taking a page out of my book, I see. It's already up to 63.5, by the way.
That's it?
Yeah.
That means I can bet it again on draft.
Oh, yeah, you can, yeah.
All right. This is officially my largest prop bet of the season so far, is Jeff Wilson over rush yards this week.
All right. Very exciting. I'm sure everyone's on the edge of their seat.
Send me. All right. Ready to move on to the next game?
Yeah.
I spam click this one more time. And we're in. All right, let's go to the creme de la creme of the week 6 slate. The prime matchup in the 4:00 window, the Bills against the Chiefs. The Bills return to the scene of the crime, the house of horrors, Arrowhead, Kansas City, the place that the Buffalo Bills season has come to an end for 2 straight years. They will look to exorcise some demons and get revenge on the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. This marks the first game of Patrick Mahomes' career where he will be an underdog in Arrowhead. The current line is +2.5. The over-under is 53.5. What do you have here on the Bills and the Chiefs? Couple injury notes real quick before I turn it over to you. Isaiah McKenzie sounds like he's going to be good to go this week. And then we don't have a ton of clarity on the Bills secondary in terms of Jordan Poyer and a couple of other defensive backs. We'll have to wait and see later in the week, but that would obviously come into play here against an explosive Chiefs offense. Rue, what say you on this one?
Well, I think this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Are we the parlay the once in a lifetime opportunity with Nick Chubb last week? Now we're adding on to it with this week. How many once in a lifetime opportunities?
I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
you.
The books are being generous to us. We're getting Patrick Mahomes at home as an underdog. I crushed this line when it hit 3. I think if you think there's a chance it's going to get back there, you wait for it. But if not, I'm fine taking the 2.5. You don't overthink it. You let everyone be all over Josh Allen, but this line is a complete overreaction. The look ahead of this line was basically a pick 'em. So what happened last week? The Bills won at home against the Steelers and Kenny Pickett's first start. The anemic Steelers offense and defense that were still missing their best defensive player. And the Chiefs won a nail biter at home against the Raiders. But outside of a long 4th and 1 pass to Devontae Adams, the defense looked pretty good against the pass. The Raiders had one scoring drive in which there was 50 yards of pass interference penalties and another drive that ended with a field goal because of the worst roughing the passer call we may ever see. The Raiders had
their biggest weakness was the run defense, and the Bills don't run the ball.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the 6 carries that Devin Singletary is going to get. So, yeah, absolutely. They were running with it with Josh Jacobs. Even if the Bills could get 15 yards a pop with Devin Singletary, they still wouldn't lean on the ground game.
Yeah.
So we're getting a guy that's 26-6 in the regular season, straight up at home in his career, and 5 or as a 2.5 and 3-point underdog. He's 7-0-1 overall as an underdog in his career. And you may think the Bills are a better team, but I ask you to look at their schedule. The only team they have played,
they are a better team
that is remotely in the same tier as the Chiefs is the Ravens, and they squeezed out a win at the buzzer by a field goal. Josh Allen completed 52% of his passes for 213 yards, a touchdown and an interception. They have
lost
not
to the Dolphins too.
Well, I was saying playing against a team like the Chiefs, like in that same tier.
I mean, the Dolphins are like an upper echelon team.
Yeah, so the Dolphins, they dropped the game against the Dolphins. Chiefs dropped the game against the Colts. So I can't, it balances out. They both dropped the game they shouldn't have. They haven't seen a passing attack like this. I mean, even the game where against the Dolphins, you had Tua playing with a brain injury for the second half, and he looked like I'm just saying, like he looked like a completely different quarterback the second half of that game. And maybe this secondary that I've been targeting all year will finally get exposed. So, like I said, both teams dropped a game to a team they shouldn't have. The Chiefs lit up. Yeah, the Chiefs lit up one of the best defenses in football against the Buccaneers. Yeah. And they beat everyone's darling team in the Los Angeles Chargers. And they just haven't shown me any reason that the Bills should be considered this far superior of a team to be favored by 2.5, 3 points in this game. Forget the revenge spot. Forget the short week for the Chiefs. Just back the best quarterback in football and one of the best coaches of all time at home as an underdog.
Yeah, totally with you. Can't really add much to that. This line basically implies that the Bills would be like 5-point favorites over the Chiefs on a neutral field, which is just insane. I think the Bills are a better team. They should be favorites here, but they should definitely not be more than -1. So anything.
I don't think they should be favorites. I think this is a pick.
They're a better team. I think.
Okay, but by that much of a margin, you give the Chiefs a little bit for home field here.
Yeah, pick them. That's fine.
Yeah, a pick them. That's what I'm saying. I don't think the Bills should be favored at all.
Yeah. So right now, as of Wednesday night, we're recording this, you can get a +2.5 at +100 at multiple books. And then Circa does still have a +3 at -120. So there are still some expensive +3s out there if you can find them. I think that's definitely the way to go. And then I also love the over here. I grabbed it 53.5. I think that's a really strong play. Last 3 head-to-head matchups have soared over this total: 42-36, 38-20, and 38-24. So they've been mostly in that upper 50s to low 60s range. These offenses are top 10 in pretty much every metric you can find, both top 12 in neutral game pace of play. So expect fireworks. I think we're going to get them.
Let's hope so. How's this game not Sunday night? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they overthink. So I mean, look, the Sunday night game this week is awesome. I'd rather this one be Monday night. Yes.
For us as Eagles fans, I'm saying talking from a more like
Cowboys 4-1, Eagles 5-0 coming into the link on Sunday. That's awesome.
I guess.
I think that's a great game if you're a football fan.
Yeah, it is. But now I think from we're biased. I think everyone wants to see Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes in prime time.
Yeah. I still want to see the Eagles and the Cowboys too. Okay. All right, prop looks for you in this one.
I will be going to Steph Diggs over 6.5 receptions. He's over in 4 out of 5 games, double-digit targets in 4 out of 5 games. I just don't see a game script where he is not going to be heavily involved in this game. And then MVS, my freaking dude, finally, this dude's numbers increasing every week, 48 to 63 to 90 yards last week, season high, 8 targets last week, big play threat. So if we're getting his yards in the high 40s, I'll take the over on that.
Okay. I can see a big MVS long play here. Isaiah McKenzie. He was a guy that I was going to be on last week if he played. I think this Bills slot wide receiver role is just really valuable. Last week, he was plus money for over 3.5 receptions.
Man, it's such a great line. I was so mad he got ruled out.
I know. Would you look at, so he's expected to be fully cleared and play here. Is he someone that would you would look at, or do you think that the emergence of rookie wide receiver Khalil Shakir in his big game last week, do you think there's a chance that they split snaps and we kind of have to just lay off both of them? Or how do you think that situation plays out?
I think it's a spot that's not going to be worth the risk. Like in these props, like I don't like, yeah, like you said, I mean, Khalil Shakir, we didn't see anything from him before he got the opportunity last week, and he did nothing to not warrant getting some snaps even when McKenzie's back. So yeah, I think, and with McKenzie coming back off the injury, I think there's definitely a world where he's cutting into his snap. So it's probably going to be a pass for me.
All right, call that more of a wait and see. Yeah, unfortunately, this Kansas City passing offense, it just feels like impossible to take a prop on it. I know you like the MVS over, but like outside of that, it's just really tough to make a case for anybody.
Yeah.
All right, ready to go Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, one more thing on the Chiefs. Like, can we stop giving like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the AFC Cam Akers for me, because when you give the ball,
no, that's way too hard.
What did he average last week? Like every time Jerick McKinnon touched the ball, he's ripping off 8+
Okay,
yard
the week
runs.
before he averaged like 9 yards a carry. He went like 7 for 92. Dude, Cam Akers couldn't dream of 7 for 92. Are you kidding me? That's insulting.
All right, so 9 for 15 last week. All right, then he had 19 for 92 against the Bucs. Fine, 4.8.
What was the week before that?
Seven carries for 0 yards against
the week before that.
Yeah, he had 8 for 74 and 7 for 42. So maybe he's not as bad as I thought.
He's up and down. He's up and down.
But I just feel like last week I'm seeing Edwards-Helaire get like 0 yards every carry.
Yeah,
but then
he was brutal.
Every time Jerick McKinnon touched the ball, he's like ripping off long runs.
Yeah, but like, what are you gonna do? You can't give Jerick McKinnon 15 carries. He's gonna die on the field. Like
I like Isaiah Pacheco too. So
yeah. They only gave him like 2 snaps last week. He was like super involved 2 weeks ago, and then last week he's like not allowed to touch the ball. That's what I said. The Chiefs' offense, like it's hard to figure out.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving along to Sunday Night Football, the underwhelming Sunday Night Football game, as Rue called it.
I did not say that. Do not.
All right, type it up. Let's give it the due it deserves. The NFC East divisional battle. The 4-1 Dallas Cowboys come to town to take on our undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. The line has ballooned up to Eagles -6. The over-under is 42.5. Dak Prescott is going to be out, so it will be another week of Cooper Rush and his undefeated streak. It sounds like Micah Parsons is going to play for the Cowboys. The Eagles' offensive line has some question marks. Jordan Mailata being the main one. Jason Kelce was a little bit banged up last week. I believe Landon Dickerson is also on the injury report. So I think that injury report's really going to matter for the Eagles going up against an elite pass rush and one of the best defense in the league against the Cowboys. So what do you have here on this one? Eagles v Cowboys.
Yeah, it sucks with the offensive line injuries for the Eagles, because I would probably take them in a spot, because the Cowboys have been getting it done with their defensive line, and the Eagles are really maybe the best team in the league that's suited to neutralize that. So for me, it's a pass. I don't think Dallas gets it done with their offense. I think, we kind of saw Cooper Rush, what we expect from Cooper Rush last week. He didn't look great. And I'm not worried about the Cowboys rattling off 2 or 3 straight scores like backdoor scores at the end of the game to cover this. I'm like on the fence here. What is it still at 6? Did you say?
Yeah, I think
like
the
6
best
is too much.
Can find right now is 6. Yeah, I think all the 5.5s are gone, which is the problem.
Yeah, so
I agree. I think 5.5 would have been the last buy point.
Yeah, so like I think I could have been convinced of like the 4.5, 5, even with the injuries on the D line, because the Eagles do have like decent depth, and some of these guys might be in, but 6 is just too much. So I think I'll just be watching this one as an Eagles fan.
Yeah, I think just monitor the spread. If it goes down to 5.5, I think I am going to take the Eagles. But kind of like you said, like I just think that the Cowboys, the way that they've been getting it done is on defense. Last week they scored 22 points, and that included a defensive touchdown. The week before against Washington, 25. They scored 23 against the Giants, 20 against the Bengals. So I think this Eagles offense presents some different challenges that they haven't really gone up against. The dynamic rushing ability of Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders on the ground with our offensive line really creating a lot of space in there. So I think the Eagles match up pretty well here. I think they can put up enough points to cover this one. So I chose to play this. I found Eagles halftime, full time. So it means they have to be winning at the first half and at the end of the game. Minus 125 on FanDuel. The Eagles continue to be the best first half team in the league. They have been leading at halftime at every single game this season. So that was kind of my way of betting on the Eagles without necessarily taking them on the spread. So that was my bet.
All right, I like it.
Prop looks for you in this one?
Nothing right now.
Yeah, probably not a ton for me either. I don't think this is going to be a ton of props here. Miles Sanders been kind of up and down. The Eagles passing game, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown have kind of been trading big weeks, and Dallas, it's kind of tough with Zeke and Pollard both in there, a ton of different receivers. So unfortunately, probably not a big prop game.
Yeah.
All right, let's cap it off with Monday Night Football. The Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers, AFC West divisional battle. Chargers are down to 5.5-point home favorites. The over/under is 42.5. A bunch of injury notes here. Randy Gregory out for the Broncos. Left tackle Garrett Bowles done for the season. Cornerback Ronald Darby also out. And Russell Wilson continues to battle through this lat injury in his shoulder. It does sound like he's still going to play, but hasn't been very good. And then on the Chargers side, Keenan Allen, forever questionable apparently, and then Joey Bosa is still going to be out. What do you have in this one?
So I took the Broncos at 6.5 at the open. I would honestly play it down to 3.5. This is just another.
Oh God, the 3.5.
This is just another case for me of who the heck are the Chargers. I don't like this Chargers team, and the Broncos defense to me. They let me down against the Raiders a little bit, but they're still fourth in DVOA. They're second against the pass. I know Ronald Darby's out, but second against the pass, and we know that's what the Chargers want to do. The Chargers had the big game on the ground last week against the Browns, but they're a bottom 5 run defense. We have 4 other games of data showing this is not a good running team. Offensively, it's hard to make a case to the Broncos. I'm not going to lie. Other than that, they are moving the ball and getting into scoring position. They just can't finish. 0-4 in the red 0-4 in the red zone last week. They are 21% in the red zone, which is dead last.
Impossible.
The next closest is 38%. So all I can say is there's some sort of regression on the horizon for this team. I went all the way back to the 2013 season, and the lowest red zone touchdown percentage that I could find was 35%. And the Broncos are at 21. Jeez. So as bad as we think this Broncos offense is, positive regression is a thing, and they are bound to start converting some of these red zone opportunities. They're not going to keep fumbling on the 1-yard line. Like, some of these opportunities are going to happen. The getting over a field goal in this matchup, I really do like, and I do trust the Broncos defense here. And I just haven't been impressed with the Chargers. I really haven't. Like, they have the pieces on defense, but the defense hasn't looked great. The offense has been up and down. I still think Brandon Staley is just an absolute wild card and a complete idiot. And I don't care what any analytics person out there says, that going for that 4th down was not the right decision at the end of that game. And I really wish it cost them the game, but luckily it did, because the Browns kicker sucks, as we said. So I'll be on the Broncos here. Maybe I will come out on Tuesday morning and hate myself and call out of work, but I'll be back in the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I also took the Broncos. I think, plus 4.5, plus 5.5 still in the market now. I think that's fine. Look, as disgusting as this team has been, as disappointing as they've been, I think you said, the matchup just bodes really well. Excellent pass defense. Pat Surtain's been fantastic. He's probably going to be on Mike Williams, especially if Keenan Allen doesn't go. I think that bodes really well from them. Broncos also have extended rests coming off the Thursday night football game. Chargers have almost no home field advantage. So I think this is just pure numbers play. It's just too many points for the Chargers to be laying. I think the Broncos have to be valuable here at 5.5.
Let's do it.
Oh man, I don't want to do
dumpster diving.
8:21 Eastern on Monday night. I'm going to hate this bet. What do you have for prop looks in this game? We going back to Cortland Sutton for the 18th week in a row?
I think we have to because it's just an absolute moneymaker. And I said it last week, as bad as this Broncos offense is look, he just keeps cashing his overs. And it's like Russ is just force feeding him targets. Like other guys are wide open and he's still just throwing it to Cortland Sutton. So there's some level of trust there that he's just, when in doubt, let's throw it to Cortland Sutton. So yeah.
Even when he's not throwing to Cortland Sutton, he threw a deep ball, and I forget who, if it was KJ Hamler or who it was, and Sutton just like flies out of nowhere and grabs the ball and just rips it out of his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on Sutton. I don't really have much on the Chargers. It's kind of a hard offense to figure out.
Yeah, me either.
All right, that will wrap it up here. We will close out the show with our long shots, favorite bets of the week, chalk talkie parlay, and favorite look ahead line for next week. Rue, kick it to you first. Long shot of the week. What do you got?
Oh, you're going to love it. My dude, my guy getting his first touchdown of the season, MVS touchdown, and a Chiefs money line victory.
Okay.
So little 4 o'clock. I was going to say prime time, but it's not prime time. So yeah, the game should be prime time. I don't know what you mean to say. So MVS touchdown and a Chiefs win. I'm calling my shot.
All right. I like it. For my long shot, all right. I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett here. I'm going to go 70 yards and a touchdown. Very high scoring projected game here. Geno Smith, as much as Rue wants to downplay it, he leads the NFL in passer rating. He's been awesome. Tyler Lockett's last 4 games, 9 for 107, 9 for 76, 6 for 91, 5 for 104, and 2 last week. The Cardinals defense has actually been pretty solid against wide receiver ones. That's why I like the matchup for Lockett more than Metcalf. Devontae Adams only went 2 for 12, while Mac Hollins and Hunter Renfrow had big games. A.J. Brown last week only goes 3 for 33, while Devontae Smith has 10 for 87. So I like the matchup for Lockett in the slot more than Metcalf on the outside. I think he has 70 receiving yards and a touchdown is my long shot of the week.
All right.
Favorite bet of the week. I have no idea where you're going here. Interested to hear it. What do you got?
I am going to go with the Baltimore Ravens at -5.5. I have confidence.
Good about it?
I have confidence in this team. I really just think this is a step up for the Giants from what they've seen. And I just don't think they've been impressive in their way. Last week, impressive what they did. But other than that, I just feel like they've had a lot of breaks go their way. And Baltimore is just a superior team here. And I got to think at some point that they just establish their dominance and put up one of these 20-point wins that we've seen so many times from them. So I'm trusting Lamar Jackson in this matchup. And I just got to trust the secondary to cover these practice squad wide receivers. So give me the Ravens laying 5.5.
Okay, I like the confidence.
And I feel like there's still that portion. Like, I know it didn't translate to last week, but these teams coming back from London, I think there's still a little bit of an unknown there that could play in your favor here if you're backing the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh man, I keep going back and forth so many times on this one. All right, I'm just gonna stick with my my original play here. I'm gonna go with the Seahawks Arizona Cardinals total over 50.5 on DraftKings right now. I would still play it at 51. I just don't see how a Seattle Seahawks game stays under 50 points against a competent NFL offense. Last 3 games, 27-23 versus Atlanta, 48-45 versus Detroit, 39-32 last week against New Orleans. Geno keeps putting up points. The Cardinals offense has finally started to show some life. 26 points against a solid Panthers defense, only 17 last week, but they also missed an easy field goal and put up 363 yards of total offense. So big step down in competition here. I like both teams' team total overs. So I think the over is a good play here. Weather looks fine. This one soars over in the end of the third quarter. We're cashing this.
Yeah, you're the totals guy. Great at betting totals. He's not that great.
I had my favorite bet of the week was a total.
Tell everyone. Go ahead. Let's hear all your wins on the totals.
I'm telling you, I'm good at totals. I feel called out now. This total's cashing. You wait. All right, are we doing a chalk talkie parlay? I haven't even looked at this. What are our options?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a ton of great spots. Let's see.
Ravens. Since betting against the Giants goes so well.
Yeah.
What about Ravens and Niners?
Oh, okay.
Ravens,
Niners, and Bucks is plus 150.
God, that's living on the edge.
It is living on the edge.
Do we like it? Do we want to take anyone
I
out?
kind of like it. Plus 150. It'll make up for some of the chalk donkey losses if we hit.
All right. Ravens, Niners, Bucks, money line, money line, money line. That's our chalk donkey parlay of the week, plus 154 on DraftKings.
All right.
All right. Look ahead line of the week. The week 7 lines have been released. Rue, the moment that everyone is waiting to hear. What do we have for next week?
Oh man, I didn't have anything that really stuck out to me.
Really?
Honestly,
I have two that I love.
So there's like a couple spots that I see that I'll like, but I feel so I like Atlanta plus 7 against the Bengals, but I feel like that line could move. Like I think the 49ers cover this week. So I think we could end up getting, and I bet the Bengals this week too. So that's why
I don't think you need to jump on that now.
That's what I mean. Like I don't see anything that I feel like I have to jump on. I mean, maybe like Texans plus 7 coming off the bye against the Raiders, but even neither of those teams are playing this week. So again, what's going to move that line?
Okay, couple things. Texans against the Raiders. I think 7 points is too many in that game. I think that spread should be like 5.5 or 6. The one thing that could make that move, Darren Waller is currently on the injury report, and Devontae Adams probably not going to be suspended.
He's not going to get suspended.
It's still possible at this point, and if he does, that would be a massive downgrade to this offense. And even if he does play, I still think 7's valuable here.
I agree it's valuable, but I don't think Devontae gets suspended.
Okay, second one. This number is crazy to me. The Cleveland Browns plus 6 at the Baltimore Ravens. They're laying 6 points to the Ravens.
Yeah.
They were just laying 2.5 or 3 to the Bengals. The Bengals and the Browns are like the same team. 6 points? That's crazy.
Yeah, I could get on board with that.
I mean, God forbid we bet against your beloved Ravens. I mean, God forbid. But
I'm not opposed to betting. I'm not opposed to betting.
You love the Ravens. You bet on
I do love the Ravens. I love the Eagles, and I bet against them all the time.
Yeah, but you're not a Ravens fan. You just love the team and never want to bet against them.
All right, everyone's got their team. Maybe you should bet the total on that game.
Why?
You're the totals guy. I don't know. You tell me.
I would tell you if the total was too low, but the totals guy doesn't think that total's too low. All right. So do you have an official play for us?
I can get on board with the Browns plus 6. It's a good number.
All right. Rue fading his Baltimore Ravens. The Browns plus 6 will be our look ahead line of the week. Going in the action app after the pod.
All right.
Anything left for you to say?
Nope.
Pretty sure that still took forever, even though there was 4 bye weeks.
I know. Before this, we were like, oh yeah, I think we'll.
I didn't even have that much stuff to talk about this week. I didn't even have a ton of notes, and I still feel like I was talking forever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hope everyone out there has a great week 6. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at BetRightPod. Official prop sheet will be posted later in the week. Make sure to listen today and grab the lines that we said before they move. Jeff Wilson's already up to 66.5. So yeah.
Really?
Get that in. Yeah. It's moving big time. Anyway, follow us on Twitter, YouTube. Smash the like button on YouTube. The link to the YouTube video will be in the description of the podcast. From Jeff and Rue, we are the Bet Right Sports Betting Podcast, because every time you bet with us, you bet right.